Okay, hello out there in YouTube land, fellow comic book fans. Considering how busy I will be over the weekend and how light of a week it was, I decided to do my comic reviews today because I only had the 5 and I managed to get them done just now, so I'm going to do them so I don't have to worry about it later after doing 12, 13-hour shifts later. To start out, excuse me. Hey Kids, Comics by Image, issue 1. This is sort of inside radio, so to speak. Actually, it is inside comics. When I saw this, I had heard something. The only thing I'd heard about it was someone had picked it up in a pickup video that I saw before I went in. And judging from the cover, it looked a little bit more about the comic lifestyle, so to speak, and like cons and stuff, considering the cover. But it wasn't. This jumps back and forth from 1945 to 2001. Covering a group of artists as they go from getting out of the war and moving from company to company, dealing with the fall and then rise again of superhero comics and horror comics and things like that. It's the inner politics of it, and sort of reminiscent of in one section of the like Bill Finger, Bob Kane deal, where one person takes more credit for the creation of things than others. The reported Stanley Jack Kirby thing. And also another thing that at least came to my mind was the whole event leading up to Image to begin with. People creating certain characters and not getting credit for it. I got all the way to like the second to the last page, and it was just like, no, not. I'm aware of all this stuff from things that I've seen, things that I've heard, documentaries that I've watched and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, if you're into things like that, this could be interesting. If you haven't heard about it before, it could be interesting. There are elements to it that, could be considered interesting, but I found it rather, I don't want to say redundant or, because I don't think there's ever been a comic that's covered this before, but it's out there and so this is nothing new. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Man of Steel, or Superman 2. Not Man of Steel 2, but Superman 2. This spends the first half of the comic with Superman going around doing superheroic deeds, saving different things, doing different stuff, as he recalls a conversation that he had with Oliver Queen about whether his abilities make his life a living hell, being able to hear everything all around the world, whether or not he can shut it off, and things like that. And it just seemed a little tedious, but then it continues on with where it left off from last issue, with Earth being stuck in the neutral zone. It was, I don't know. This was the first issue that I wasn't really interested in of all the stuff that Bendis has done on this run. The only interesting thing in it was this character right here. And if you know who this is absolutely hilarious. I got a really good laugh out of that. Not only because he was introduced in this comic, but Comic Joe and Alan and I were talking about Superman 4 earlier today, and then this shows up in the comics. This is almost enough to make me end the picking it up, but I will pick up number 3 just to see if he's picked up if he recovers from this issue. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. Amazing Spider-Man number 3. This explains why there is a Spider-Man and a Peter Parker facing off each other. It looked like it might have been going back to the Clone Saga deal. Rehashing that old miserable experiment that they did. And then I thought it might be Taskmaster covering as Spider-Man, because he was one of the characters in the last issue. But it does explain in a bit of a new fashion why there's 2, and actually manages to explain why Parker wants to become Spider-Man back again. It's kind of a weird story, but it wasn't as good as the last 2, which seems to be a trend now with the last 2 comics. I am going to give it a 2.75 out of 5. This just wasn't very good. Fantastic Four number 1. And I did not realize until I saw the Bag and Boarding Guys video today that this was $5.99. I don't know if you can see that here. $5.99. Really not worth it. Got 2 different stories in here, both by, I guess it's Dan Slott. Is it Dan Slott? Yeah, whoever's taking over. And of course, all Marvel books, at least of the 2 that I have this week, have a tribute to Steve Ditko in the front. Yes, both of these are written by, all 3 of them are by Dan Slott. Signal in the Sky, A Day of Doom and Victory by Dan Slott, and What a Pop by Dan Slott. This really doesn't do much. It doesn't really, there's not much going on. This is just the only real events that go on in this thing are between Ben and Alyssa and Johnny. They barely even show present day Mr. Fantastic and Sue and everyone else, except for like 1 page. Everything else is either with Ben and Johnny or done in flashback. But there is one big event, 2 events that take place in this thing. The other one is with Dr. Doom. that might set up things later on down the road. But if they want people to keep getting this, they're going to have to do a better job of this than this one. I can possibly give it a 3.0 out of 5. This has not been turning out to be a good week for the comics that I picked up. Last one this week, Detective Comics, number 986, part 4, I think it is. What is this? Yes, On the Outside, part 4. Excuse me. Batman dealing with karma. He's found out who he is at this point and is going to deal with him. He's got Black Lightning working with the rest of the Bat family, trying to teach them where Batman couldn't, and trying to deal with karma on his own where he couldn't, and the rest of them intervene and help him deal with a hostage crisis. I haven't been too big of a fan of this storyline, even though he is getting back to being a detective in this one, solving stuff instead of just reacting to things. And so I'm hoping that we will get a little bit better later on. And hopefully we'll get something else going as a lead up to 1000, because that's what I'm really looking forward to with this one. So I'm going to give it a 3.25 out of 5. All right, that's it for this week. Let me know what you got. Let me know what you thought of what I got. And if you like it, like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.